Hey everyone and welcome to the Retro Channel, and lately I've been craving a C64 repair. I didn't think I had any more to repair, but after digging around in the cupboard, I remembered that I had this thing. It obviously looks a little different to your regular Commodore 64. This is an aftermarket case made by a company in South Australia in the late 80s, sort of as a stand-in for the C64C case, which weren't actually available here at the time. They did, of course, come later though. So yeah, it's very similar to a 64C case, but obviously there's no Commodore branding on here. I spotted this thing on eBay a couple of years ago and immediately snapped it up. Unfortunately though, what I didn't realize was that it actually has the original C64C bottom half, and these two cases are not designed to join together, which is why there's a big gap at the front. I do actually have a complete version of one of these machines, which is a little bit more yellowed, but as you can see, it's got the proper bottom half, and a little quirk with these is they actually put a hole for a reset switch, along with another hole for a Dolphin DOS switch or some other kernel ROM switcher. So unfortunately, I only have half an Australian C64 here, and the other half is possibly floating around in Australia somewhere else. So if you have the bottom half of this case, get in touch. Maybe we can reunite these. But of course, this thing is not working, and the main issue that I immediately spotted when taking the cover off, it doesn't have a VIC-2. Or a SID for that matter. These are the only two chips that look to have been in sockets, so dare I say somebody pulled them out and stuck them in another machine. So I'm thinking that there must be an issue with this board, otherwise why would you pull working chips out of a working board? So I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's throw a VIC-2 in here, see what happens. Alright, we are hooked up, but before I put a VIC-2 in, we probably should just check some voltages, just in case. Last thing I want to do is fry a working VIC-2. Alright, let's power on, and we'll go for the voltage regulators first. Oh. And we're getting nothing out of the 12 volt regulator. Nothing going into it either. Same deal with the 5 volt. There's like 0.4 volts going into it, but nothing coming out. Let's just power that off. The fuse looks to be intact, and it is. Do we have the 5 volts for the rest of the chips, which should be pretty easy to find on the user port? I think it's these two. Or is it these two? Oh, either way, we get nothing over on the user port. So, yeah, definitely no power on this board. And no AC on the user port either. Well, that's a bit useless. Could be a dodgy power switch. Could be a dodgy power plug. Could be a dodgy power brick. Still nothing. Let's just make sure my original Commodore brick of death is still working and actually outputting anything. Just plug it into my jank load, which is basically just a couple of resistors on the AC and the DC side, pretty much enough to pull 1 amp from either rail. So, yep, it's still working. We're seeing 5.2 volts DC, which is good enough, and on the AC side, 9.7 volts. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with the power supply. Definitely something wrong with the C64 itself. So, let's get the board out of here and take a closer look. So, we have a 250425 board. Looks like most of the date codes are mid-1985. And we don't have any MOS logic, which is a good start. There is the original PLA by the looks of it. That's dated 0386. And I'm not sure what brand RAM that is. It's got a T on top, but I don't think it's Texas Instruments. There's a bunch of them. There is one MT RAM chip, and there's a National Semiconductor RAM chip as well. So dare I say those two have been replaced. Everything else looks pretty much original. Let's have a look at the underside. Yeah, oh, okay, so the character ROM has been replaced. Oh, yeah, it's dated 0287, so That's been replaced. The CPU as well, maybe? It's 1585, so it matches up with everything else. Those two RAM chips, obviously, and the PLA has been replaced. So I guess it was replaced not long after this machine was actually sold, given everything else is sort of 85. Maybe it lasted 6 months and then the PLA died, so they had to replace that too. But yeah, dare I say that's a factory job, whereas the other stuff here looks a little bit more messy, so probably that was done in later years. Yeah, everything else seems to be okay. Let's check out, obviously, the power plug and the switch, see what's going on there. So going from the power plug, we should have a connection from here to one part of the switch, and we do. And that should connect to the middle pin once the power is switched on. And we're seeing nothing. Let's check the DC side. So I think it's this pin goes here, or is it this one? So that pin goes to there, and with the power switch turned on, we should have a connection between these two, which we do. So it looks like 5 volts is getting through, but yeah, definitely nothing going through the switch on the AC side. Let's get that thing out and crack it open. Well, it feels okay, but we definitely didn't see any continuity on the AC half of the switch, and on the DC half we did have continuity, but I imagine it's a fairly poor connection, and yeah, it's just not enough to pass the current that we need. So let's crack this thing open, take a look at those contacts on the inside. So we just need to get a screwdriver underneath these little tabs that hook around the edges, and some gentle prying, the top should come open. And usually little contacts will go flying everywhere, so be wary of that. Yep, they didn't move. They are not even falling out. There they are. And they actually don't look that bad. I've certainly seen a lot worse. Even though these are only switching sort of low voltage stuff, it is possible to still get some arcing on those contacts, but everything inside this switch actually looks really good. Well, we'll give it a clean while we're here anyway. Just a bit of IPA should do it. And yeah, not that bad. There's a little bit of gunk on there, but I've certainly seen a lot worse. Just quickly go over them with the fiberglass pen just to get any oxide off them. Try and get down into the switch as well, but I think I might only be able to get to the middle contacts, which is probably what was causing the issues anyway, so not such a big deal. Let's throw this all back together, give it another try. Alright, switches back together. I did bend those pins a little bit, but that's alright. Let's just check this thing before we go sticking it back in the machine, make sure we've got continuity where it should be. So in the on position, we should have a connection between these two pins, which we do, and same on the other side. Cool. And then the off position, we don't really care, but we should have continuity between these two and these two. All right, let's get it soldered back in. Cool, with that done, we should now have power flowing. Let's see, AC, oh, no. Wow. DC, nothing. Huh. Is it really that bad? Well, there's 12 volts there. And 5 volts there. Oh, I think that's the DC side. Right. That makes more sense. 5.1 volts and 9.5. And we have our proper 12 and 5 volts on the voltage regulators. Cool. Let's throw a Vic in, see what happens. All right, so we get an out of memory error in 0 and a bunch of random dollar signs. And same thing on a power cycle. My money is going to be on a bad RAM, specifically the MT RAM. In fact, are any of them getting hot? None of them appear to be getting hot. Let's try the dead test, or even des test. Let's do dead test, see what that says, and then try des test, see what it really means. We're getting one flash. Now we're getting 4 flashes. No, 6. 6 flashes. All right, so we had 1 flash and 6 flashes. Well, that sounds like fun. Let's throw in des test, see what is actually going on. It's saying bit 2 is bad, and it is stuck on testing the stack page, apparently. Yep, bit 2, bit 2, bit 2. I do love this thing. Let's just have a look. So with the original dead test, 6 flashes would indicate U22, which is data bit 2. So, you know, it was kind of on the money with that, but we also got 1 flash, which would indicate U12, data bit 7. So U12 is that one. U22, you'll never believe it, is the MT RAM. Which one would you go for? I've just noticed that pin 16, there isn't actually a pin there. Does appear to be soldered on the top side, so I guess that's fine, but yeah, looks like somebody must have broken that off when they installed it. It's gonna fight with me. Little bit of braid should make light work of that. There we go. And our MT RAM is out. I mean, I would have taken this out anyway, and yeah, that pin has definitely been snapped off, so I guess it's gone forever, but doesn't really matter. Just a shame whoever swapped that out the first time wasn't nice enough to put a socket in. Alright, socket is in, but before we go sticking some fresh RAM in there, let's throw this thing in the RAM tester, see what it has to say. Alright, so I've reattached the missing leg, so let's throw this in the little DRAM tester, see what it says. Go. Oh. Well, it didn't immediately fail, so that's interesting. Ah. Okay, so it reckons it's half bad. Let's see if we get the same result. Yeah, so we're getting 2 red LEDs and 2 green LEDs, which would indicate, yeah, half this RAM is bad. Maybe I can sell it to Sinclair. So let's see, is this going to solve all our issues, or are we going to find more? Power on. Hey, that's what we like to see. All right, cool. Let's stick a harness on it, make sure there's no like bad CIAs or anything. But so far, it's looking pretty good. Just a bit of IPA over the edge connectors. They look to be in pretty decent shape, so I don't think we'll need any more than that. Yeah, not too bad. Oh, we need a SID, of course. All right, 6581, where's pin 1? That way. Okay, most of the harness is hooked up. I don't have the joystick port loop backs because they've been giving me issues recently, so we'll test the joystick ports separately, but everything else, hopefully, will just work. Okay, yeah, control port bad, U18 bad, that's because the control port loop backs aren't there, but that seems, oh, help have actually plugged in audio. I still don't hear any audio. Am I capturing audio? No. Right, let's try that again. Cool, that sounds good. I was pretty confident that this SID works, otherwise I would have put an X on it. So yeah, I think we're all good there. Let's try out these joystick ports, make sure they're good, and I guess also the keyboard. Right, Easy Flash 3, and I'm going to use my little modif... Right, let's go for the Easy Flash 3. If it'll start. Why is it not starting? Huh. Well, that's a problem. Is it still working? Has it suddenly died? Oh, it still works. Why is this not working? All right, clean of the contacts. Let's try that again. Still nothing. Okay. Just tried in my other machine. It's definitely working here. Right. So why is it not working with this board? Is it still crap in the cartridge port? All the solder joints look fine. Not seeing any issues there. Nothing. Nothing at all. Let's take it out a little bit. No, doesn't like it. Not happy, Jan. Why? Why would that be the case? Maybe there's some subtle issue with the PLA? So that's pretty much what handles, you know, most of the stuff happening on the cartridge port, so... Let's throw DES test back in. Okay, unexpected break. That usually happens if you hit the restore key, which kind of can't do right now, so why has it done that? Interesting. I'm surprised the diagnostic test didn't, you know, pick up on anything. Yeah, everything looks how you'd expect with no harness. Well, once again, DES test coming to the rescue. Hey, wait a minute. Now it's working. God, that video quality is terrible. You can hardly even see those numbers. So now it's happy. Just jiggle this around a little bit. No. Oh, I'm so confused. Unexpected break. Okay. There's got to be something going on here. Yeah. I think we'll have to do some scoping. All right, let's first pull up these schematics. 250425. Nope. Okay, here we go. So we can see here's our keyboard connector, and pin 3 on the keyboard connector goes directly to the restore key. That is active low. That goes down to the 556 timer, so half of that is used to trigger the restore key, or the non-maskable interrupt. The other half of the 556 is used for the reset circuit. And it goes to the cartridge port, pin 21 on CIA2, and pin 4 on the CPU. So let's start out over on the keyboard connector. Make sure that it is not currently sitting low, otherwise that would mean restore is constantly being pressed. So if we take a look at pin 3 of the keyboard connector, it should currently be high, which it is. So if it were low, that would mean, restore is being pressed, well, if the keyboard was connected, and that would trigger the non-maskable interrupt, but it's not doing that. So let's jump straight over to pin 21 of CIA2. That should currently be high as well. So yeah, the non-maskable interrupt is not being triggered from what I can see, unless it's somehow low on the CPU. It's high there as well. Let's just stay on pin 4 of the CPU and power cycle the machine. Yep, seems fine to me. Throw des test back in. No, that seems fine. Unexpected break. Why? Where did that come from? Where did it pick that up from? Is it because it's not rising fast enough? It's because it's noisy? It's not that noisy. So let's just hook up a keyboard and see what we can see. So power on. Pin 4 on the CPU should be high, which it is. And if I hit restore, it should go low, but it is not. Do a single shot. Yep. It's not triggering. Oh, there it goes. Could be just a dodgy restore key then. Oh yes, it is working. Okay. Yeah, okay. Just takes a bit to trigger it, but it is definitely working. So that's working. Okay. So des test gives you a slightly different error. Unexpected NMI, did you hit restore? What's unexpected break then? Unexpected break. Oh, is that like the run stop key? So hitting stop. Is that what triggers that? Oh, now I'm just confused. I'm so confused. Let's use the other machine to figure it out. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, not the greatest composite video on this board either, but the RF off should solve most of that. Let's hit restore. Okay, unexpected NMI, did you hit restore? Which I did. What causes the break error? Is it going to be stop? No. Run stop restore? No. Did you hit restore? Unexpected break. Well, after a bunch of keyboard mashing, I haven't managed to trigger an unexpected break, so I don't think it's anything we can do with the keyboard. Something else is going on here. Right, probably a good idea to RTFM. Okay. Doesn't seem to mention unexpected break. Ah, is it not searchable? Yeah, it is searchable. Right, so that's not actually mentioned in the manual. I guess I'll have to contact Matt Desmond and see what it means. All right, it is a couple of days later, and I did get a reply from Matt a couple of days ago, but I haven't been able to get back to this. He did explain that the unexpected break shouldn't happen, and it's caused by the CPU executing a break instruction, which not quite sure what could be causing that. And to be honest, you know, assembly and programming, that kind of thing, not really my forte. So I'm just gonna keep going with this and kind of hope for the best. I am sort of leaning towards the PLA maybe causing some weird kind of issue. It could also be the CPU, I guess, because it is a CPU instruction causing that issue. But I'm more leaning towards the PLA because, well, it's a PLA. So let's whip that out, see if it makes any difference. All right. PLA is out. The reason I suspect this is because it handles talking to the cartridge port and setting up the correct memory locations to load, you know, whatever's in the cartridge port into memory. So I think it's going to be the PLA, but I guess we're about to find out. All right, so let's grab the PLA out of my ZIF socketed board, which is an aftermarket one, but should be good enough for a test. And if this appears to work, then we'll stick the faulty PLA in the ZIF board. All right, here we go. Okay, we didn't get the unexpected break, but it also struggled to switch over to the full DES test at the end of these. So let's see if that happens. No, it's still stuck, which probably means the Easy Flash cartridge still doesn't work. No, we get nothing. Rightio. CPU, I guess. I'm pretty certain there's no issue with the cartridge port. All the connections look good. I don't see any damage traces going to or from it. And the port itself looks fine. Ooh, but I have just noticed there are a few scratches near this screw hole that do go across a couple of traces, and they no doubt head under the RF modulator over to the cartridge port. That could be a problem. Let's just try and tone them out. So this one goes here. It's still connected there, and then it disappears. Ah. Well, it does show up on the SID, so I'm guessing it's getting through there. What about the next one? Does that also... That also shows up on the SID. Next one is also there. Next one either doesn't go to the SID or is broken somewhere. Does it go to the CPU? Yes. Okay, that's also connected. And yeah, after that, they're the only ones that are actually going through that scratch. So they seem fine. I don't know. I don't fully trust them though, so I'm going to expose a bit more of them and just tin them up with a bit of solder, just to make sure they can actually carry more than, you know, a few microamps of current that the multimeter's putting through them. Right, that should do. Just make sure I didn't bridge anything or break them completely. It's still connected. It's still there. That's good. That's on the CPU. Yeah. Yeah, they're all fine and I haven't bridged anything. Let's try it again, just in case. Let's just go straight for the Easy Flash cartridge. Yeah, still nothing. That was worth a shot. CPU. Alright, CPU is out. Okay, we have a socket. Let's grab the CPU from the ZIF board. May as well while it's still here. Stick it in here. Let's see. Come on. Still nothing. Wow. I suppose we should just try Des test again just to see if anything's changed there, but I somehow doubt it. And once again it gets stuck, switching to the full memory test, so still not fixed. I think what I'm going to do is take out all the chips that are currently in sockets, put them in the ZIF board, just in case there's, I don't know, something weird going on that I'm just not picking up on. Alright, so the ZIF board now has all the chips from the other machine installed in here, or at least all the ones that we've removed so far, so let's just see if that makes any difference. I somehow doubt it's going to do anything different. It should all still work. Huh. No Easy Flash. So I think the Easy Flash 3 should now be working. It was just a bad connection somewhere. Yep. It's good. Alright. Let's leave all those chips from the non-working machine in this board because they all seem to be working there. And I've put back all the chips from the ZIF board, which were also working in there, into this board. So nothing's really changed and we're still not any closer to figuring out what's going on, but we will get there. Yeah, definitely nothing from the Easy Flash. I'm certain it's not the cartridge port. Better not be the cartridge port. Yeah, you'd think moving it around would change the behavior, but it's definitely not doing anything. I don't know, we don't seem to be getting the unexpected break, but there's definitely still something breaking. Let's do a few other diagnostics. Somewhere on this cartridge I should have Des test full, which should check all the RAM. That's max. Alright, here we go. Des test full. So this will check the whole 64K. Let's just see if it comes up with anything. Right, well, it's done a full round and didn't pick up any errors. Time of day clock seemed fine. While it was doing that, I was looking over this board and just seeing if I could spot any other issues. I did notice that on these two ROMs, one of the legs has been clipped on both of them. I'm guessing that was because one of these ROMs was known to be bad whenever this was being troubleshooted at some point, and clipping the legs on those, I guess, disabled them. And then obviously the character ROM got swapped out because it's got a later date code and flux residue on the bottom. So guessing that was done during a troubleshooting process, and once they realized that those two ROMs were okay, they've just resoldered the legs on them. So I don't think that's an issue. Let's just double check the ROM checksums from the regular diagnostic. B6C70A. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all those checksums are correct. So I just looked up the pinout for these ROM chips, and it looks like Databit 2 was the pin that's been clipped on both of these and then resoldered. That's also what U22 handles, which is the one that we replaced that had the dodgy MT RAM in there. So I think what's happened sometime in the past with this machine is the dead test was used. It indicated, you know, with the flash codes that Databit 2 was bad, and then somebody's gone and probably swapped that RAM and put the MT RAM in there, which I guess was a mistake in hindsight. And when that didn't work, they targeted the ROMs, clipped Databit 2 off each of these, and then determined that the character ROM was the cause of that issue. Obviously something screwy going on with the Databit 2 line on the character ROM, and then they replaced that and brought the machine back to life. So that's why they resoldered the legs on these two ROMs, and I guess why that RAM chip was replaced. But that's not really helping us today. Just a bit of, you know, interesting, I guess, archaeology. So I don't really know where to go here, but in the spirit of clipping legs from this board, I'm going to clip a couple myself, namely the chip selects for these two CIAs, see if that does anything, and I don't know, go from there. Right, the chip select on CIA 1 has been clipped. Let's see if that makes any difference. Obviously the timers are broken, that's to be expected. Oh, unexpected IRQ. That would be similar to hitting the restore key, I think? Or is that an NMI? That's an NMI. Oh, and now it's stuck on the grey border. Now we're just stuck at unexpected IRQ. Okay, so PLA is now testing bad. All the ROM checksums are getting mixed up, and it's very unhappy. Just from disabling the chip select on that CIA. That's interesting. So apart from crashing the machine, disabling that CIA didn't seem to fix anything. So I've just reconnected that pin. I suppose we may as well try the second one just to see what happens. First CIA has been re-enabled, second CIA is now disabled. And now we get unexpected NMI. Did you hit restore? No. Ooh. Okay. So just cutting the chip select lines to the CIA is not fully disabling them, I guess, and it's just causing more issues than it solves. And yeah, with both CIAs re-enabled, we still just get stuck at the end of this memory test where it should switch to the full test. So I haven't really made it anywhere, and I'm kind of out of ideas. Not that I really had that many to begin with. Thermal camera? Maybe something is getting warmer than average that I just can't detect with my fingers. Clutching at straws here. Well, what we see is the CIAs and the three ROMs are all around 35 degrees, which is pretty normal. The RAM's slightly warm, but 25 degrees. Nothing too unusual. Which one's that? Oh, the color RAM's slightly warm, but that's also pretty normal. It's at 26 degrees. And the 7406 is slightly warmer than the rest of the logic, but again, not that unusual. Yeah, really nothing obvious from the thermal cam. And I don't see any way of catching this on the scope or even the logic analyzer. I mean, maybe if I knew exactly what I was looking for, possibly the logic analyzer would help. So I'm sure the ROMs are okay. The RAM is okay. The multiplexers must be okay because the RAM is okay. This logic, maybe okay. CIAs seem alright. 7406 could be an issue. It's slightly warmer than the other logic, but I really don't know. So, cartridge port. Maybe I should just reflow the pins on the cartridge port, but we don't seem to be getting any different behavior, just, you know, jiggling cartridges around in it. So I don't think there's a bad contact inside it. And all the pins on the underside look perfectly fine. I am really at a loss with this one, which I kind of like. Alright, pins on the cartridge port have been reflowed. Not expecting anything from this, but it wouldn't be the first time something's caught me off guard. We're not getting the unexpected break anymore, which is weird. No, nothing. Well, I'm out of ideas, so I'm just going to start pulling chips until it works. Right, so I spent some time removing some ICs to no avail. I pretty much focused on the logic chips that seem to handle sort of addressing between the VIC2 and the CPU and cartridge port, that kind of thing. Nothing really worked. I then started targeting the ROMs, so I've removed the character ROM because that's been replaced in the past and, you know, maybe something weird happened there. But that didn't really make any difference, and I was about to remove the other two ROMs because we don't really need them to run the DES test. And then I thought, well, what else don't we need to run the DES test, and what do we need to get it to work properly? So back with the XIF64, I pulled out all the ROM chips. Of course, we can still run DES test without that, and even DES test switch will work. So it'll switch over to the full set of tests. And as most of you probably know, you can also remove both CIAs and still have the machine boot. But there is a little quirk when it comes to DES test switch and CIA2. So without CIA2, it no longer switches. It basically just crashes trying to switch. So I thought, well, maybe that's something. And if we throw in the Easy Flash 3 cartridge, it does try to boot. But sometimes we'll get a black screen, sometimes it'll just be a corrupted mess. So both DES test switch and the Easy Flash 3 need a fully working CIA2. So I'm thinking something is wrong with the second CIA in this board. Obviously not enough to really manifest itself in terms of, you know, throwing off the time of day clocks or even the diagnostic harness, because we did that ages ago and everything passed except for the joystick ports because I didn't have that part of the harness connected. So I'm almost certain CIA2 is the actual problem here. Not 100% sure, but fairly confident. A lot more confident than I've been throughout most of this troubleshooting process. So let's get CIA2 out, and I guess we'll throw this good one in and see what happens. All right, CIA2 is out. Oh, that pin I snipped. That pin has also been soldered. That wasn't me. The rest of the pin was still in the socket. Well, that's kind of annoying because I have to reattach those to test this properly, don't I? Right, tiny bit of surgery and we now have a full set of legs. That one's a bit long though. So let's stick this in the XIF board, see what happens. Oh, and we're going to need ROMs. Yes, that'd be why Easy Flash 3 wouldn't boot, because you do actually need ROMs for that. So If I do this and try and boot it without CIA2, this should give us a garbled screen. Yes, there we go. So it needs CIA2 to boot correctly. Let's see what happens when we put this one in. It still boots. Which probably means it's still gonna switch as well. Yep, still switches. Well, my confidence has quickly evaporated. Just to be 100% sure, let's throw a socket in. I'll put this CIA in. Maybe that other leg that was cut off wasn't making contact and I just didn't notice. Perhaps that makes a difference. Nope, it still won't switch. And the easy flash is not going to work. Yeah, we don't even get the light on it or anything. Right, well, back to swapping chips. Alright, another day goes by, but I did want to just take a break from this thing and have a good think about what we've seen so far. And some of you probably were screaming at the screen earlier on when I disconnected the chip select lines to the CIAs. I just assumed that they would be pulled high internally by the CIAs themselves, but that might not actually be the case, and just cutting that pin off might have left the CIA to do whatever it felt like. So rather than pulling it high, which would disable the CIA, it could have just been floating between high and low just randomly and spewing out random data onto the bus. So yeah, that was my bad there. If you're going to try and do something like that, make sure you actually pull the chip select line high or low if it's active high. So anyway, I desoldered the first CIA and I've stuck the CIA from the ZIF board in there, along with everything else from the ZIF board that is currently socketed. I've also left the character ROM and the SID out, and I've just noticed that one of the pins on the SID socket is actually a little bit crusty. Not that that's going to make any difference at the moment, but it'll probably haunt me later. It does appear to be the original socket because it's only a single wipe socket, so I might just end up replacing it anyway. What's one more socket in the grand scheme of things? Something I have found though, and this is rather interesting. So at the moment, it's still doing the same thing. It'll run through the des test switch, at least the initial 4K tests, and then get stuck when it comes time to switch. So yeah, it'll just sit there forever. But if I actually remove the first CIA, something a little different happens. So it starts up normally. Obviously the time of day clock on the first CIA is wrong, so it's picked that up. And when it goes to switch, Unexpected BRK is back. I don't know why it's come back, especially because we did originally have both CIAs in there and we're getting that Unexpected BRK error. And now it only happens when I remove the first CIA. I've also double checked this with the ZIF board, so I've basically taken everything that I could from this board, stuck it in the ZIF board, and yeah, with mostly the same set of chips, it still manages to go through the des test switch. We don't get that Unexpected BRK, even with the first CIA removed. So let's jump ahead to when I actually find something, or if I don't, everything's going to end up in a socket and I'll still be none the wiser. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. Well, after replacing every IC, every socket, even the SID socket, the VIC2 socket, the 8701 socket, the cartridge port, the power switch, power connector, the reset capacitor, checking a whole bunch of resistors, diodes, transistors, we have finally gotten to the end. So let's plug this thing in and take a look. Yep, still broken. You didn't think I actually managed to fix it now, did you? Not only that, of course, the Easy Flash 3 still doesn't work. So we just got a whole bunch of nothing. And to be honest, I am totally out of ideas. I mean, I was totally out of ideas many hours ago, but now I am completely out of ideas. The only things I haven't tested or pulled out to test are some of these smaller ceramic caps around the board. The 100 nanofarad bypass caps, you have to assume they're all fine. I mean, if one of them was bad, it would cause all kinds of issues, but perhaps it's one of these little ones. I somehow doubt it though. I've been over the entire board, back to front, looking for any more broken traces or damaged traces, any bad connections, and I can't find anything wrong with this thing. There clearly is something wrong because the Easy Flash 3 should definitely work, as should the Des Test switch. Of course, my ZIF board is also the same board revision, so I know it's not, a quirk with these boards. I'm totally out of ideas. I would have loved to have said, hey, I found it. That's what we were all waiting for, but I can't find it. And I'm kind of okay with that. Whoa, not so fast. So, yeah, I was actually planning on calling this video here and just taking a few photos of the board, which I did end up doing, and basically putting it out there to see if anyone had any ideas. I figured there must be something on this board that I'm just not seeing, and hopefully somebody in the comments will actually notice what it is. But as it turns out, after taking those photos, I think I may have stumbled upon the issue. Now, keep in mind that as I was doing all this, as every socket went in, I was checking all the traces, making sure everything looked good under the sockets, especially under the areas that had had previous rework, and everything seemed fine. A few other things I didn't show on camera was me scoping some of the signals, like specifically the ones going to the PLA, especially the ones to do with the cartridge port, and once again, they all looked fine. So when I say I was out of ideas, I really was out of ideas. But like I said, when I took those photos, I did spot something that just looked a little bit iffy. And that's around this area of the board. Obviously we had a little bit of damage up here, which I since tinned and, that all tested fine. And I noticed that around this capacitor here, there was a little bit of what looked like schmutz on the board, and I tried to wipe that off. And then I took a closer look at it and actually moved that cap out of the way, because from this angle, I can't actually see what's going on behind it. And I realized that possibly this trace right here may have some issues. So if we bring out the multimeter, it looks like this trace goes obviously behind the capacitor, up around here, and over to this trace underneath the SID socket. And there's obviously no continuity there, but if we go to this point up here somewhere, we do get continuity. And likewise, if we go from where I think the other side of the break is in this trace to this point over here, we also have continuity. So there is a break in this trace right on this corner underneath the C205 silkscreen. And if we go from this side of the trace, we should be able to figure out where this is supposed to go. There it is. Pin 1, 2, 3, 4. Pin 7 on the SID socket. Let's have a look at the schematics. So, back to the schematics. Let's have a look. There's the SID. And pin 7, pin 7 is read-write, which also connects to pin 11 of the VIC2, and if we scroll across a little bit, looks like it just goes past the ROMs. It's pin 3 of the RAM, pin 24 of the PLA, and then it goes off to pin 5 of the cartridge port. what's a bet that the connection to the cartridge port is where it's broken. So let's see, so it makes it to pin 7 of the SID, pin 11 on the VIC-2 would be that one there, so it's still connected. It's obviously going to go to the CPU because that's where that control signal really comes from. I don't know what pin it is, there it is. Pin 38 of the CPU, pin 3 of the RAM. Probably goes other places, but I think everything on this side of the board is going to be fine. I've lost it. And pin 5 on the cartridge port is the big one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No connection, but I bet you this side, yep. That is where the connection is broken, and obviously basic cartridges, well, the majority of cartridges probably don't use the read-write line, they don't try and take control of it, but I guess the Easy Flash 3 and the Des Test Switch does use that line. So let's correct that broken trace and see what happens. Yep, looks like the break was right underneath that O on the silk screen. Right, with the tiniest little patch installed, let's see if we now have continuity from here over to here. And we do, which means pin 5 on the cartridge port is also reconnected. So let's reinstall all the chips and give it another try. This has got to be it. It's got to be right. Right? Right, with the board repopulated, let's plug this thing in, see what happens. Alright, it's still alive. Okay, here we go, moment of truth. It switched! Right. Easy Flash. Light is on, and somebody's home. Wow. I can't believe I overlooked that. Can't believe I was going to give up on this thing as well. There is one last thing that I want to sort out though, and that is the video output quality, because as you can see from the Easy Flash menu, it looks pretty terrible. This is composite video, so I can't expect too much. Let's just bring up a test pattern. Yeah, not great. And yeah, even with S video, it's still not the greatest. Oh, especially when you're looking at that basic screen. Yeah. So before we wrap this up, let's quickly swap out the RF modulator for one of my RF off boards and see what improvement it makes. So we just need to straighten up these tabs. That one's already straight. And desolder all the signal connections and also these 4 points. Yes. And that should free the original RF modulator. Right, it is out. And stick the replacement in. Beautiful, done. And I took the VIC-2 out because I am going to use my VIC-2 Luma bypass board. This just basically stops the Luma signal from the VIC-2 going across the main board to the RF modulator, and instead runs it through this little bit of shielded wire. So while my RF replacement does most of the heavy lifting in terms of cleaning up the video signal, the bypass board just adds a little bit extra to that. So yeah, let's plug all this back in, see how it looks. Even though there's a direct-to-S video out, we'll use the original DIN connector just to keep all things equal. Let's throw the Easy Flash 3 back in. And I just realized my microphones weren't recording, so yeah, the audio probably was a little bit crap during the last few minutes. Sorry about that. It happens. Okay, so let's power this thing on, see how it looks. That is so much better, I'm sure you'll agree. Let's bring up the test pattern. Yeah, lovely. And basic screen, yeah, so much better. I can still see hints of jail bars in there, but well, I can't work miracles. It's certainly a massive improvement over how it was before, which is kind of what I expected already. And of course with composite video, yeah, not perfect, but still a whole lot better. Test pattern shows an improvement, I think. I rarely use composite video, so I'm trying to remember what it normally looks like, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that looks better than what we had before. So I think it's safe to say this board is now fully functional in terms of the half Australian, half 64C case. Guess I'll figure it out later. Like I said, if you've got the bottom half of one of these Australian cases and the top half of a C64C case, get in touch. Yeah, it took a lot longer than I anticipated to fix this thing. In reality, the only thing wrong with it was a power switch, a bad RAM, and a broken trace. That was literally it. If I hadn't really been thinking about it at the time, I probably should have scoped the signals on the cartridge port rather than scoping them at the PLA or somewhere else. That probably would have led me to what was going on a lot quicker, but it is what it is. It's now working. I'm happy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, thank you so much to my patrons who support the channel and allow me to continue making videos like this. If you want to do the same, links to support are down in the video description. You'll get ad-free early access to all videos along with discounts on the Tindy store, which is where you'll find these things amongst a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing. Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.